Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, everybody. My dear students, today we are going to explain the difference between finite and non-finite verbs. But before that, we have more than one classification concerning the difference between verbs that we have studied in the previous lectures. We have classified the verbs according to the kinds of complements. We have classified the verbs according to the kinds of objects, and we have classified the verbs according to the aspects or the aspectual contrast. So when we compare or when we differentiate between verbs according to the kind of complement, we have two kinds of verbs, intensive and extensive. And when we differentiate between verbs according to the kind of object, we have the transitive and intransitive. Transitive and intransitive. What about the kinds of transitive verbs? We have either a monotransitive verb, ditransitive verb, very nice, or a complex transitive verb that is followed by an object and object complement. And concerning the aspectual contrast, we have dynamic verbs and stative verbs. So today we are going to explain the fourth kind of comparison, let's say, between verbs. It's about finite and non-finite verbs. So this is a very important topic. And first of all, we are going to define what is a finite verb. What is meant by a finite verb? A finite verb is the verb that has a finite or limited relation with the subject. So from this definition, it's clear for you that a finite verb should be preceded by a subject. So there is such a kind of concord, there is such a kind of agreement between the verb and the subject. For this reason, we call it as a finite. Finite, it means limited, يعني محدد, okay? So this is the starting point in our definition concerning a finite verb. A finite verb is the verb that has a finite or limited relation with the subject. This is a very important definition. You have to memorize it. A finite verb is the verb that has a finite or limited relation with the subject. There are three parameters. Parameters, what is meant by parameters, it means dimensions. So, when we talk about finite verbs, we can explain them in three different ways. The first parameter we have is the tense. So they limit the tense. We can identify the tense of the sentence through what? Through this kind of verb, through the finite verb. Okay, so first the tense, that is the subject, is performing an action. The subject is performing an action, maybe in the past, or in the present, or in the future. So this is the tense. This tense is identified by what? By the finite verb. And the second parameter is that the person. So we have three kinds of persons. We have the first person, who is the speaker. Now, I am the first person, I'm talking to you. And we have the second person, the listener. So when I address any one of you, I'm going to say you. So you, the second person. And we have the third person, for example, he, she, it, they. So we are referring to them. Maybe they're with us here in the class, or maybe they're out of the class, so we are calling them as the third person. So there is a difference when I use the first person in comparison with the third person. So if I say I play football every day, and I change the subject I into he. So in this case, I'm going to add the S of the third person. You see? So why do I add this S of the third person? Because a play is a finite verb. So there is such a kind of agreement or concord or limitation between the subject and the verb. You see? So here we have first person, for example, I, we, this is the first person. Second person, we have you is the second person. And third person, we have he, she, it, and they. Okay, concerning the third parameter, it is the number. The number. So it is different when the subject is singular or plural. So of course, the verb is going to be affected by what? By the subject, if it is singular or plural. So here we have two kinds. Either the subject is singular or a plural, as you see. So that a finite verb will change as for the tense, person, and number. So when we use a finite verb, the finite verb is affected by these three parameters, which are the tense, person, and number. Put it in mind. Tense, person, and number. Very nice. So let's have a look on these examples. We have I play football every day. I play football every day. So here we have the verb, play. And here in the second example, I played football yesterday. I played. I add the ed to refer to the past tense. So as long as this verb is changed from present into past, from a present symbol into a past symbol, so this means that this is what? This is a finite verb, because it is affected by the tense and it is affected by the number and also the person. Okay? Now let's go to the other side. It's about non-finite verbs. So what is a non-finite verb? Non-finite, it means it's not limited. There is no agreement with the subject, or you can say it's not preceded by the subject. Okay? So a non-finite verb doesn't have any agreement. A non-finite verb doesn't have any agreements with the subject. That is, it is not limited as for the change in the subject. Whether the subject is singular or a plural, first, second, third, this doesn't matter. Finite, non-finite verbs do not affect by the subject. Okay? It doesn't change as for the tense, person, and number. And there are three kinds of non-finite verbs. Be careful. I may ask you in the examination, tell me about the three kinds, or what are the kinds of a non-finite verb? What are the kinds of a non-finite verbs? So, there are three kinds of these non-finite verbs. We have the gerunds, and participles, and infinitives. Please be with me. Are you with me? We have the first kind, gerunds, and participles, and infinitives. So let's explain the first kind. We have the gerunds. Gerunds is a term that is used to refer to the verbs that are acting as nouns. You see? For example, now here we have the verb play. Play. It is a verb, right? So now I can change this verb into a noun, and I say playing. Playing football is much fun. For example, swim is a verb. I can change it into a noun, and I say swimming is my favorite hobby. Okay? Dance is a verb, and mainly when I add ing, I'm going to change this verb into a noun. So when the verb is changed into a noun, we call it as gerund. You see? We call it what? A gerund. Okay? For example, surfing. Surfing is a great fun. You know surfing? Surfing. Sorry?
You wanted the meaning?
Yes, what is the meaning of surfing? Yes. Surfing. Yes, come on. Surfing, when you ride the sea waves, okay, with the windsurf, okay, معناتها ركوب الأمواج, surfing.
Opposite the sinking.
Sorry?
Opposite the sinking.
Yes, sinking. Yes, it's opposite.
Yes.
Antonyms, yes. So surfing is a great fun. Okay, let's come across the second kind of non-finite verbs. It's called as the participles. Participles. There are two kinds of participles. We have either a present participle, the verb that is ending with ing, or past participle. Past participle. And you know that we have regular and irregular verbs. So some of the verbs, the regular verbs are ending with ed when we change them from the base form into the past participle. Okay, and some of them are irregular. Okay. For example, the team is playing on a Friday. So here playing, and here playing is a present participle. It is a present participle, and it is a non-finite verb. It is what? It is non-finite verb because there is no agreement with the subject. It doesn't matter that if we change the team into the teams, and we say the teams are playing. So playing remains playing, whatever the subject it was. Okay? And the third kind, we have infinitives. Infinitives are the base forms of the verb preceded by to. We call it as to infinitive. Okay, so when the verb is preceded by to, it is called as to infinitive. For example, James planned to travel to Australia. So to travel here, to travel is the infinitive, and it is non-finite verb. Why it is non-finite? Because even if we change the subject into plural, or even if we change the tense, it remains the same. So now if we say the boys are planning to travel, so to travel remains to travel, whatever the tense or the subject it was. Put it in mind, this is a very important note, that the main verb of the sentence is always what? Is always a finite verb. The main verb in any sentence is always a finite verb. It is not the only verb in the sentence, however. In the same sentence, you may encounter a finite verb and a non-finite verb. For example, Brian was tired. Brian was tired of waiting. So here, waiting is a non-finite verb, and was tired is a finite verb. Okay, because here it's referring to what? To the past tense, and it is affected by the subject.
Yeah,
Yes, the person and the number. Okay. Now we can say that finite verbs can change the form. The form of the verb. For example, you like, she likes. So here the form of the verb like is changed. Okay, we add the s of the third person. For this reason, like is considered a finite verb. Why? Because it changed its form. The form is changed. Okay? And finite verbs are able to show the tense. We can identify the tense of the sentence. So here, you run, this is a present symbol. Okay, present tense, and you ran This is a past simple tense. So run and ran, this is a finite verb because the tense is identified through the verb. However, non-finite verb do not change the form. Do not change the form. It remains the same in all the tenses. So it doesn't change the form to match the subject, and they do not show the tense. For example, Ryan likes running in marathons. Ryan likes. So likes is a finite verb. Likes is a finite verb. However, running is non-finite verb. Running is a non-finite verb. Now let's have a look on the uses of non-finite verbs. Uses, or we can say the functions. الاستخدامات أو وظائف non-finite verbs الأفعال الغير محددة. Number one, a non-finite verb can be used as a noun. من الممكن أن نستخدم non-finite verb كاسم اللي هو شركة بالجرد اللي شرحناه قبل ثانية. For example, running. Running is a good habit. Running is a good habit. So here running is a gerund and it's used as a noun, or it's functioning as a noun. Okay? Number two, a non-finite verb can be used as an adjective. We can use the non-finite verb as an adjective. For example, the sleeping cat. The sleeping cat. So here, sleeping is modifying the noun cat. The sleeping cat is white. So sleeping is what? Is an adjective. It is an adjective. Okay. A non-finite verb can be used as an adverb. For example, Ali went to the UK to study. So here study is functioning as an adverb. Okay, to study. Where? In the UK. Okay, so it is used here in this example as an infinitive. I hope that every one of you understand the main points in our lecture for today. And if you have any question, if you have any problem with any point, you can ask, and I'm ready to answer any question. Thank you so much.